This weekend, The Strangers Chapter 2 was released in theaters, and while I've been toiling away at my best of the year countdown, which begins in just a few short days and runs every day through October, I found the time to go to my theater, sit in an almost empty auditorium on Sunday night, and watch it. And I have thoughts. And you'll hear them after this. The Strangers Chapter 2 is new in theaters now from Lionsgate. It's directed by Renny Harlin and written by Alan R. Cohen and Alan Freedland. Continuing immediately after the events of Chapter 1, The Strangers Chapter 2 starts with Maya, played by Madeleine Pêche, waking up in a hospital on the mend after being stalked by 3 masked strangers while taking a vacation trip with her fiancé Ryan, played by Freud Gutierrez. She finds out Ryan was killed, and Sheriff Rotter, played by the notorious Richard Brakey, and his deputy Walters, played by Pedro Leandro, promise Maya they will catch the killer. Well, the film actually begins with a quick montage letting us know the identity of one of the strangers, but I'll get into that in a bit. Maya wakes up after a nightmare to see a message that her sister is on her way into town, and then hears a disturbance out in the hall. Unhooking herself from her vitals, Maya leaves her room to find that the strangers are in the hospital. This begins an endless cat-and-mouse chase that basically takes up the entire film as Maya escapes the hospital and is pursued through the surrounding Oregon woods by the strangers. I was going into The Strangers Chapter 2 with trepidation. I couldn't avoid seeing the amount of videos out there from the usual suspects who put their faces in the thumbnails with looks of exasperation, anger, and confusion. I do try to avoid watching reviews before writing mine, but the images alone told me enough of what I thought I was going to see. Or so I thought. It turns out I kind of liked The Strangers Chapter 2. Like many of you, I felt the first of the new series of Strangers movies was pointless, following the same roadmap the original Strangers film did, only with actors I didn't know, less of that thick claustrophobic atmosphere, and less of Brian Bertino's deft handling of soul-shearing suspense and taut tension. I guess that setup was necessary for us to get this second act, where things finally go off the well-worn path blazed by the original and new ground can be covered. Now, starting off immediately after the first one and having the protagonist wake up in a hospital is far from original. It's basically the same plot of the original Halloween 2. But while there are a few set pieces taking place in the hospital that were familiar, director Renny Harlin smartly takes the action out of the hospital and into the cold, rainy forest surrounding it. Here's the thing. The main criticism of the original was that it was unoriginal and didn't add anything to the overall mythos of the strangers. So what happens in the second one? It goes down a new path, and a bit more about the strangers themselves is revealed. Now, one might say that lifting the masks of the strangers is going against what makes them so darn scary in the first place, and to that I agree. There's nothing like an origin story of the masked killer or the enigmatic hero that kneecaps what is interesting about the character. Not everyone needs an origin. It's the same as explaining a joke. It's just not as effective if you have to dive into the mechanics of it all. That said, this peek behind the mask deals with the pinup girl stranger, as we get flashbacks to key moments in her development as a child. I won't reveal much more, other than these flashbacks are somewhat cliched at times, but because Nola Wallace, the little actress playing the young pinup girl, is so good at being bad, these scenes worked for me. It allowed for the movie, which is basically one big chase scene, to flip to a side plot now and then, when there needs to be a scene change or a period of time passed. Harlin really seemed to want to put just a skosh of backstory into the character, while still keeping things enigmatic and at times downright otherworldly. Now, I don't know if we need this origin-style take from the other 2 masked strangers, as this flashback seems to deal with the Scarecrow stranger as well, but for me, this was enough without straight-up telling me the origin step by step. But Harlin holds on to some of his cards. There's still Sheriff Rotter, I love that name by the way, lingering around in the background, dragging his heels on this investigation. And like introducing a gun in the first act and never firing it, things just wouldn't be right if Harlin doesn't use the devious Richard Brakey as some part of this masked stranger conspiracy. Or maybe Brakey is just a red herring. Only time will tell. I will say that I was never bored with The Strangers Chapter 2. One of the lost arts in slasher films is the cat and mouse chase scenes, where the protagonist understands the threat and basically tries to use the environment and any tools around her to survive. This is a trope that has faded through the years, and I, for one, missed it. Having an entire film set on one girl running away from three masked strangers might seem redundant or light on plot, but Harlin has a strong handle on action, making each new challenge for Maya exciting and dangerous. There are a few scenes, such as the hospital curtain scene and the horse stables scene, that felt redundant, but for the most part, Harlin keeps the challenges varied. There's an especially unique and strange sequence that I won't reveal, but it adds an odd little detail to the rural nature of the setting and the origin of the strangers. It involves a CGI animal that actually looked pretty good and reminded me of the bear attack sequence in The Revenant. Now, it wasn't as brutal or as extensive as that, but still, it was something I hadn't seen before, and that was surely appreciated. It also gave us a chance to see how determined and resourceful our little heroine Maya truly is. There is a bit of plot armor in Maya's character, simply because she most likely would factor into the third installment where her fate is less than safe. Still, even though I knew she wasn't going to get cacked, Madeleine Petsch does a great job of making these threats feel threatening, while also taking a whole lot of wear and tear herself along the way. She's a good little actress, even though there are long sequences without dialogue, as she has to just keep quiet, tear up, and hide from the strangers over and over again. Still, Harlin manages to work in a gratuitous scene of her in her undies, which is definitely appreciated by this reviewer. It's going to boil down to what you want in a slasher film, whether or not this new chapter in Renny Harlin's The Strangers saga is going to be for you. Personally, I like the thrill of the hunt, and while I do like a good tense scare and a lot of mystery, which this film has copious amounts of as well, I found The Strangers Chapter 2 to be thrilling from beginning to end. It's the middle chapter of this series, with the next one wrapping up the whole thing soon. I'm hoping that the third installment is released sooner rather than later, kind of like how the next 28 Years Later film is due out only 6 months after its first trilogy installment. Final verdict, I liked The Strangers Chapter 2. I didn't think I was going to, but Harlin and company really delivered the goods with this one and almost redeemed itself after that unoriginal first chapter. How about you guys? Did you guys see The Strangers Chapter 2? Were you guys the other pair of people in the theater with me watching The Strangers Chapter 2 this weekend? Are you gonna go see it? Let me know down in the comments. Please do me a favor and punch that like button down below. Share this video with all of your social media addicted pals. Click subscribe to this channel and ring that bell for notifications. You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your reality. You're